Welcome to our proposed 2023-2024 instructional budget presentation. Thank you for the reschedule to tonight in lieu of the snow that we had. As we always do, I want to start our presentation by centering us on our mission. Our district mission indicates that we support students being lifelong learners, dynamic thinkers, compassionate and contributing citizens, and it outlines the learning environment and the qualities of the learning environment for which we hope to do so. I've highlighted a few of them because I think when you hear tonight's presentations, a lot of our budget requests and a lot of our foundational budgeting revolves around providing the academic programs that allow our students to be lifelong learners, dynamic thinkers, and compassionate contributing citizens. We're looking to provide and ensure that we have a safe and supportive environment for them to learn in. We're looking to continue to support ways in which they can pursue their individual passions, and of course, avenues that lead them to leadership and service. In addition to the mission statement, we also have our district strategic plan, which centers on 6 strategies. The first one is leadership, the second is curriculum, and the third is wellness. And I've highlighted a couple of things because you're going to continue to hear some of these terms again throughout the presentation, that we're looking at hiring staff that value continued learning and developmentally responsive pedagogy. All of our budgets have professional learning, either through contractual services or through our BOCES lines. We have district goals around making sure that our students are provided differentiated instruction and that they're future ready. We also look at the emotional, social, and physical wellness of our students, and you'll see that in some of our staff requests that we're going to be looking for. In addition to those 3 strategies, we also have a communication strategy, an infrastructure and resources strategy, and a partnership strategy. In communications, we look to engage home, school, and community. We have a contract with our PNW BOCES friends that we brought our Pville Press to light this year. It spreads and shares the good news of Pleasantville. We're also looking at making sure, again, that we have safe, collaborative, and a flexible environment. We have furniture requests. We have a lot of safety involved in our capital improvements that we're looking to do. And of course, we're always looking at how we can expand our learning opportunities. One of the departments that's going to be here tonight is our tech department, and we have a great partnership with the contractor, Acture, that are bringing great things to Pleasantville. So, with our strategic plan strategies and our mission as our core and our root for why we do what we do here in Pleasantville, I'd like to invite up the Bedford Road principal, Ms. Hunger, to talk about the 23-24 budget for Bedford Road School.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dessa. It is a pleasure to be here this evening as I share with you our proposed budget for the Bedford Road School. As you can see, we have a budget overall change of $2,200, and I'll be highlighting some of these changes in our upcoming slides. Our projected enrollment, as you can see on the screen for the 2023-24 school year, is 563 students. Projections are based on a 5-year average, taking into consideration students both moving into the district as well as out of the district. Overall, our projected number represents a slight decrease from our current school year. And there you see our kindergartners on their very first day of school this year. Our staff. While there's no words up there, it is a special moment always to recognize the BRS staff. You would like to think that all of these dress-up pictures are from one day at school, and you might find that in some elementary schools, but not here. It takes a very special person who is willing to put forth their best every day and do things and go out of their way that just truly put a smile on students' faces. We are continuing to benefit from our K-12 counselor, Marian Flatley, and we're very excited that the district is moving to a sustainable model for this position as it's moved into the general fund from the grant money that expires at the end of this school year. This also helps support the strategic plan in the area of wellness. She works across all 3 buildings, so you may hear her name mentioned a few times this evening. But she has a direct impact on all of our students. For us, it's through whole class lessons, through special programs, as well as individual and group counseling groups. Our staff, they bring our teaching to life. In addition to their amazing personality, they're talented educators. And our budget provides our staff with the salaries and the benefits that supports them in the materials and the professional development that they need. And I'm very excited to share some of those things with you. For our materials and supplies this evening, many of our teaching resources, as well as our curriculum, is supported under this area of the budget. At BRS, we use a variety of tools to make sure that our students have a well-balanced approach to ELA. We continue to have a data-driven approach to our instruction, and our budget supports the resources for students in both the area of instruction as well as the area of assessment. We are investing in maintaining our current program, as well as adding new materials based on our goal in writing and our work on guided reading this year. One of our overarching goals is to align our assessment tools with the guided reading materials that we have currently in our classroom. And our goal of writing this year has really helped us to identify materials and resources that are going to help support our ongoing work. They are in support of leadership development for our teachers, as they have used these to help lead professional development and collaborate with each other in support of our students. Materials and supplies also continues to support our other academic areas, related arts, and recess. Furniture for the 2022-23 school year helped to support our classrooms as we move past the post-COVID era. This included new cafeteria tables, classroom rugs, and small group learning. As we're looking forward to moving towards the 23-24 school year, our focus is still around collaboration for our students. For our students and in talking with our teachers, this means looking at more flexible seating options for our students as we continue our work around writing, really building up writing centers in our classroom. And of course, the ongoing just maintenance of materials that come along with being in a school. Our contractual services, this has supported us this year in targeting learning for our faculty members. We've had a focus on our ENL students, our English language learners, as well as our ELA instruction. Next year's budget, we hope to continue to support our professional learning in support of our goal once it's determined. And these conferences have not only benefited the faculty member attending, but it's also helped to continue their leadership skills as they turn key and they share out with their fellow teachers, their fellow faculty members on the learning that they've done. Professional development and our BOCES services. The picture that you see all the way on the bottom left over there is part of our cultural arts program. This year, we brought in the Be Great show to BRS. It is a character assembly education. It helped make that connection with some of our work around wellness and some of our SEL themes. This actually helped to kick off Kindness Month at BRS. In addition, in the area of cultural arts and programs, we're very fortunate to have support from our PTA, both financially as well as in the setup and the running of different cultural arts programs throughout the year that benefit all of our students. These experiences expose our students to new learning and new cultures. Under this area of professional development and BOCES services, you will also see collaboration that we've had with our colleagues. You'll see here we have AP and principal groups that Mr. Pinkava and I belong to, where we get to collaborate with other administrators across Westchester County. This year, the district's work within the Tri-State Consortium was on the focus of having 4 of us at the elementary school trained in the model. We were able to go out to visits from other schools. This helped us foster partnerships with our neighboring communities, helped us foster our learning and bring back new learning in the areas of ELA, in the area of curriculum, and in the area of wellness. And our capital improvement projects. When you walk into BRS on our top floor, where most of our classrooms are, you will see some peaked classrooms. This year we are looking forward to completing and adding some additional lighting to some of those classrooms that have those peak ceilings to brighten up the room. We feel very fortunate to continue the work in our classrooms around the removal of the chalkboards and replacing them with some whiteboards and bulletin boards in the classroom. In addition, as you heard Dr. Dessa say, with a focus on safety in the district, we're looking to add an additional camera at BRS. And thank you so much for having us this evening, and I turn it over to Dr. Mara.
Good evening. Thank you, Ms. Hunger. Excited to give you an overview of the Pleasantville Middle School's budget for 23-24. This slide outlines the 5 categories that make up the middle school's budget. The changes you see here have modest increases in equipment and textbooks and a reduction in BOCES services. As Ms. Hunger, I will get into a bit more detail in the upcoming slides why those numbers have changed modestly. This slide is an overview of our projected enrollment for next year. We are not projecting any substantial changes in terms of enrollment for next year. These numbers are based on the current enrollment of each grade, in addition to some projected new registrants that we get every year, mostly in the summer, but also throughout the year. That's based on a 5-year average of how many families typically move in and register throughout the year. We are graduating a smaller than typical 8th grade class this year, 115 students. So we will have a modest increase in enrollment next year. The 4th grade is around an average size of about in the 120s. So we're looking at a modest projected enrollment for next year. As Ms. Hunger said, incredibly proud of our staff. While we don't have any staffing changes per se, we are thrilled to have Ms. Flatley fully funded by the district. She is invaluable to our district, and we're very happy that she's joining us more full-time. We do anticipate a programmatic change in grade 6, which I'm very happy to share. As I mentioned previously, we have a modest increase in our textbooks code, and that comes from added funds to purchase the National Geographic digital textbook, which is a resource that's ever-evolving, constantly updated, and considered the gold standard, extremely robust for grade 6. It's a 6-year contract, which is pretty typical for digital textbooks. And we're very excited to have that resource, which was vetted by our entire social studies department chair, all teachers, met with National Geographic, and really came to the conclusion that this would be the best resource for us for next year. 6th grade social studies is going back to every day next year. We used to have that model. We had some reductions about 5 or 6 years ago. Right now, we're in a humanities block, so ELA and social studies are taught by one teacher. Next year, social studies will be back to being taught by one specific teacher. Students will have that every single day. While social studies is not required to be taught every day in grade 6, we do feel that our skills and content knowledge that is important for 6th graders to experience and have ownership of prior to 7th grade. Just some examples of those: gathering and interpreting evidence, chronological reasoning, comparison and contextualization, economics, and civic participation. So students in grade 6 are provided the opportunity to explore belief systems across time, examine the foundations of democracy. So that's very exciting to share that will be an everyday experience for grade 6 next year. That's based on some creativity, some retirements. So that's something that we've looked to do over the past few years. And this year we felt that there was a great opportunity to do so. And really the vetting of the National Geographic, vetting of a new textbook kind of led us there, which we thought was a nice opportunity. We discussed that with the social studies department, and we thought that if we can pull it off, we want to do it. So that's what our plan is for next year. So we're incredibly proud of our programs, materials, and supplies. As Ms. Hunger mentioned, don't just provide core content classes at the middle school with what they need. They also provide, as you can see in this photo here, with our quad teachers with some supplies that are almost always project-based, hands-on collaborative work. I know Mr. Chow and Dr. Dessa, I think it was last year, or maybe it was in the fall, came to visit. And you can really see in these STEAM classes, students with limited amount of supplies putting together a variety of really, really cool things. Whether it's a video game, whether it's a roller coaster, it's collaborative, it's problem solving, and it's really open-ended, we're really proud of our quads in that regard, I should say. So as I mentioned in our first slide, we do have an increase in equipment. That's for new desks in a grade 5 classroom, which is really part of our ongoing furniture replacement initiative, which has been taking place for years. And the National Digital Textbooks for Social Studies is also included here. As I mentioned, really a gold standard. And the resources with digital textbooks now seamlessly integrate with Schoology. Happy the tech team is here to share that with them. So those are really great resources, again, for all of our students. And that's really the direction we're going to go. We'll always have a class set of textbooks for students if they really have to get their hands on the material, but the digital textbooks and resources now are really spectacular. So that is the rationale and the reason for an increase in material and supplies. Contractual services, the first bullet here, actually in the middle of it right now, one example of contractual services that we have is similar to the high school with the 8th grade writing contest, which will recognize those student winners at our April student recognition night. We look forward to that. Joe has been great. He was a resident of the village and an author and continues the tradition of the 11th grade and 8th grade writing contest, which we love, and we have another big year of participation, which we're very happy about. We also have our professional organizations that our teachers and administrators participate in that help support our work as leaders and educators. And we also have a photo here, which I'm proud of, which we took at the end of last year, which again, contractual services when it comes to some bigger projects with our facilities. We renovated our courtyard last year, which is a very popular place for students and faculty to have lunch. That's a great place, which also has some contractual services attached to it when it's a larger project, and our maintenance folks are maintaining that quite nicely. So that's another aspect of contractual services that I just wanted to mention, keeping our grounds beautiful and our students and staff and community proud of them. So professional development, BOCES here, this particular slide highlights a few of the partnerships and organizations that we are a part of. The first 2 bullets under consultants, Randy Hall may be a familiar name to some folks, especially in this room tonight. He is a consultant that we use very frequently. He's an expert in Schoology, and really this year he's geared his professional development for our staff towards differentiation, using Schoology specifically, whether it be grading groups or ways to publish certain materials. He's come in during our extended days and done a great job with our staff in that regard. On Monday and also in our November Superintendent's Conference Day and ongoing via Zoom, we partner with Lisa Westman, who is an expert in differentiated instruction. She's actually based out of Chicago, but she came in and she flies in a few times a year, specifically this year, again on the dates I mentioned, and it really focuses on assessment strategies, differentiation in every aspect of what we do in our building. And she's an expert in the field who we really, really happy with her partnership. She's been a great fit for us. That's all aligned to our wildly important goal, which we developed late last year and in the summer. So all of that work with Lisa and with Randy and everything we've done at the middle school this year as it relates to differentiation is really a part of our wildly important goal. And it's not just changed the mindset of the teachers. I think the students, from what I've asked them, just periodically about how they feel and have they noticed a difference, and the ones that I have, they said they feel a difference in terms of just some flexibility of the teaching staff, the real focus on individualized, personalized learning. So I'm very happy about that, and we'll share more at the end of the year on our update on our goals. So the part of the budget also supports educational programs for students. This particular component, such as Sharp Reservation, which comes out of this code. There's a photo there of this year's fall trip where students experienced fishing, Native American dance, pond study, journal writing, sensory trail, and the very popular obstacle course. So we look forward to continuing this tradition for years to come. Great bonding experience for our students and our staff with our students in grade 7. The reason for this decrease in the code in terms of the modest decrease from BOCES is that trip in the past was budgeted as an overnight trip. We feel that the trip is just as successful as a day trip. We're looking to change things up in the next year or so in terms of our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade trips, keeping Washington, D.C. in grade 8, but potentially adding a Philadelphia trip in grade 7. So potentially moving Sharp Reservation down to grade 6. More to come in that regard, but that's something that we're working on, and that's why the modest decrease in BOCES services is there, mainly because of the Sharp Reservation trip being a day trip. Kids still absolutely love it. They're getting in all of the activities that they were able to do, so it's been a great trip and a great tradition for a lot of years. Right now, it's a one-day trip.
They go up one day.
Full day.
Okay.
Get back a little bit late, but it's a full day. Yeah. The capital improvement slide here, the big one, which everyone knows about, is the HVAC project at the middle school, which has been a conversation for a long time. And I'm very appreciative of the board putting this project on the ballot and for the community in terms of their support. Very grateful to them for supporting it. That will be a big project this summer. And we're also adding 2 additional access control entries for secure access for our staff and an additional camera in a spot that we feel we need it. So all of these really, especially the access control boxes, as Dr. Desai mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, focus on the district's goal of safety. So everything is goal-oriented, and we're proud of our budget. We're proud of what we're going to do. It's very exciting. It's actually a great night when you think about your budget. It's all about setting the framework for next year. So we look forward to that. I will pass it to Mr. Palumbo, Pleasantville High School. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Good evening. Nice to see everyone. So we are really excited about the upcoming school year at Pleasantville High School. We've got tremendous plans. We've got the best raw materials in Westchester County. That's what I tell parents when they talk to me about the work that we do here. And we can't wait to get that work started. In terms of our budget for next year, you'll notice a slight decrease in our budgeting in total. We do have you'll see in the next slide, a slight drop in enrollment. We've worked with John Chow to have a per pupil expenditure, which is really a driver, when we're developing our budget at the high school. And what I've done in the budget is kind of broken down some of the big drivers throughout the work that we do with students. Our projected enrollment next year will be 562 students. That small class that Dr. Mara is graduating in the 8th grade will be our 9th graders. We're very excited to begin our work with them. We've actually started that this year with our transition programs, starting all the way back in January and continuing through these winter and spring months. I'll add that 115 number is probably the number that might change the most in terms of the upcoming year. We always have some registrations during the summer months. It's common for them to be 9th graders, but it could also happen in grades 10, 11, and 12, and in our ungraded program. So stay tuned. This is just a snapshot and some projections right now. One of our biggest driver in our budget is staffing. And the high school is a very different animal than the Bedford Road School and the middle school. We have over 280 courses that are offered. We've got over 400 sections. And a question I always get is, well, Joe, how many classes are students taking? Students at the high school take anywhere between 6 and 7 courses. A big thing I want to point out, we've got a staff that is highly responsive to student interest. So those courses change every year. We've got a new course that I'll talk about in a moment as part of our computer science pathways that will be introduced next year. We had a number of courses introduced this year, and we've always got our finger on the pulse, that interested students, so that we can work around the areas that they are most excited about studying. Some other drivers in regards to our staffing, we do family workshops and student workshops throughout the year. There's that transition piece for our 8th graders when they come over. There's also a great transition piece for our seniors as they prepare for the next step of life, post-secondary high school. So I can't say enough about Marianne Flatley. I know that folks have already touted all that she does in the district, but she has taken a lead role in that work this year, and she's been phenomenal. So thank you so much for making her a part of our team, for the long term, and I can't say enough about her work in the building. As far as our SAS counselor goes, we currently are looking to replace one that left earlier this year. I've been in contact with Student Assistance Services. Their plan is to do some increased recruitment. They've changed their contract. They've expanded their search. So we're confident that we're going to have someone in place, if not in the spring this year, by the fall next year. And that person is will be a tremendous asset to the district. So we're very excited to get that person on board and appreciative of all of that support. Those orientation programs, 8th grade parents, if you're listening at home, I know we've met already, but those will start before the school year begins next year. And we'll be doing a lot of communication with families so they can plan in those last few months of August. It's a busy time for those class of 2027 students as they make that transition to Pleasantville High School. Materials and supplies, we are consistently looking at the text resources that we use in the building. We have a blended approach. Some of those materials are print, some of them are online. That blended approach, I feel like, is the best recipe for success. It can't be all one thing. And our students have been responding very well to the different types of resources, that we use. In art, music, science, and the world languages, there are a lot of materials and consumables. I was telling Dr. Dessau, one of our most popular art courses is the ceramics course. So we order a lot of clay, and those kilns need to be working. That kind of factors into the contractual service line for repairs. So, certainly those are some things that push our budget as far as materials and supplies go. And then we've got a new course offering next year. We're going to be offering computer principles. We introduced a 4-year sequence to computer science this year. We have currently 3 offerings. Next year, our 4th will be live and available to students. The projected or the recommended course of studies would be a computer essentials class, our computer principles course, our computer science A course, and then our cybersecurity course. 4 full-year courses. Just for a quick point of reference, that is a change from one full-year course and 2 half-year courses that we had 2 years ago. We've partnered with Project Lead the Way. It's a new program. I know Dr. Mayer is looking at the middle school to maybe do some foundational work to prepare students, for our experience here. And we're very excited to continue with it. One thing that's not on here is we had a
That.
So AP Computer Science in our recommended pathway would be the 3rd year of your studies. The 4th year is recommended that students do the cybersecurity course. The cybersecurity course is very exciting. It's really an interdisciplinary course because they do a computer piece and then there's a big piece around intellectual property, and it's interesting. We're very excited this year. Ms. Dalgetta is teaching it. She attended professional development during the summer months last year, 80 hours of training through Project Lead the Way. That's going to be one of my future slides in terms of professional learning. We're looking at some different summer institutes for teachers this year. We want to continue to grow those programs. Obviously, there are some learning curves when you introduce a new program. We had to replace a teacher who had been working for a long time as our computer science teacher, Ms. Nalbandian. But I think the new individual that we have teaching the courses are doing a great job, and we're very excited to grow those programs. In terms of professional development, I talked about those summer institutes. That happens with our dual enrollment classes and with our AP courses. We have a cyclical approach to the AP courses. In other words, we've got some people who have taught AP courses for a long time. We don't send them to training once in their career and call it a day. We'd like to get them out in the field as much as possible. The biggest power, I say, in that is the piece where they connect with other colleagues in their region who are also teaching the class. I'll go and do an observation in a class and I'll say, where did you get that lesson? And they'll talk about these discussion boards they're involved in and this connection they have in a neighboring community. We're a school of 562 students. We only run one computer science A section, so there isn't a great opportunity for synergy with another computer science A teacher in our building. So those summer institutes are important for a variety of reasons, and we really appreciate your support in terms of us getting the teachers out to them. Our building goal for the year was communication. Yesterday we had some phenomenal, not yesterday, on Monday, we had some phenomenal adult learning. We had James Finnan running a course on communication. We had a course on case studies headed up by Melanie Haggie. So really great stuff. And that's one of the things I want to point out is when we send folks to these state and national conferences, they come back and they turnkey it for their colleagues here in the building, which only builds capacity within our building. It gets folks really excited. And also, again, with that adult learning piece, there was a lot of choice and autonomy in our PD this week for teachers. So they got to choose some different pathways, all geared towards supporting our wildly important goal around communication. We've had some initial conversations about goals for next year. We had a great staff development meeting last week over at the middle school that Dr. Mara and Dr. Desai led, so we're really excited about maybe looking at one of the other C's of 21st century learning, but we will see. Stay tuned. Facilities and equipment. If you've been in the auditorium in the last 2 weeks, you've noticed that we've got an amazing production taking place. Mr. Chow, thank you for your assistance with our lighting project. I know that was a last year project, but I just have to mention it because it's such a driver, in terms of the work that we do in that auditorium. It's our one big space in the district, so it's not uncommon to see our friends from Bedford Road School and the middle school over for events, and we're so excited. We maintain a line for repairs and updates in that space every year. We will be looking at sound, in the coming years. It's something we did probably 7 years ago, and just as part of a cyclical process, we look at that. Then we typically have a rotation, and we look in classrooms for furniture, desks, tables, things that students are working with. And then a dovetail with our district-wide goal around safety. Dr. Desai has been working very closely with Greg Fondy throughout the year. We're going to be adding some additional cameras on campus this summer, which will be great. It'll give us some more opportunities to be aware of what's taking place on campus. And those are our primary drivers. And the last one I'll mention, if you walked in tonight, I don't know about everybody else, but it was 6 o'clock and the sun was out. I was very happy. But our front pillars are in need of repair. So we did some work on the cupola last year, way up high. Now we're going to go a little bit lower. So that's part of our capital improvement for next year, which we're very excited about. The budget that we have supports all of the work that we want to do with students. We are so excited, like I said, to continue that work and appreciate all of your work and support behind the scenes and here at meetings. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now introduce Dr. Bala.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
For the educational services budget for the next school year, we are projecting an increase in our budget by approximately $754,000. Very different than what you're hearing from the buildings. There are three main contributors to this increase in our budget, and they're reflected in the contractual services, the tuition, and the BOCES services lines. Included in the contractual services line is an increase in transportation costs, given the rise in fuel costs, the impact of which I'm sure you've heard about in other areas as well. We are responsible for transporting resident students to non-public schools. We are also responsible for transporting resident students to out-of-district programs recommended by the Committee on Special Education. Also included in the contractual services line are professional services for which we contract, like physical therapy services. We contract with Cognitive Behavioral Consultants of Westchester for DBT services for our students. We also contract with the developmental optometrist to service our students in district. So those are just some of the different services that fall under that line. The increase in the tuition line reflects the greater need that our resident students are demonstrating for a higher level of care than we can provide within district, despite offering a wide continuum of services in district. And the increase in the BOCES services line reflects the increased cost of related services and programming that some of our students receive through BOCES. Also included in that line are contractual services that we receive with a consulting psychiatrist, as well as specialized evaluations that we receive from BOCES that include feeding evaluations, functional vision evaluations, bilingual evaluations, psychiatric evaluations, just to name a few. On the revenue end of things for the upcoming school year, we are projecting a decrease in approximately $255,000. And this is reflective of our projections that a greater number of resident students classified by the Committee on Special Education will require supports through our district programs, leaving less space to service students from neighboring districts. This is despite the fact that we are planning to run an additional section of ISP, which is our individualized support program that services students with neurodiverse learning profiles. We are planning to run an additional section at the Bedford Road School for next school year. You see a decrease in tuition reflected in ISP at the high school, and this reflects some students from neighboring districts who will be successfully completing their high school requirements with the support of our program and will be exiting, but their seats will now be taken by district resident students. We are projecting to be able to support at least one new student from a neighboring district through our therapeutic support program at the high school. In terms of staffing, I should mention, just consistent with all of the buildings, we are so proud of our staff and so grateful for the work that they do day in and day out. It's really what makes our department as special really as it is. For next school year, we are projecting that our staffing will be relatively stable while maintaining flexibility to meet the needs of our students. We are requesting an increase for 2 teaching assistants at the Bedford Road School. As I mentioned earlier, we will be running an additional section of ISP there. We are also requesting an increase of full-time school psychologists to meet the needs of our students. Just a little background on that position. That was initially a part-time school psychologist position that we had through grant funds, and then we requested to increase that position based on the needs of our students and difficulty filling the part-time position with quality candidates. So we requested that increase to a full-time position, which I know, and we're so grateful that you approved. And for next school year, we are looking to bring that to be part of our budget, the general fund. Overall, in terms of enrollment, we are projecting an increase by about 20 students who will be classified by the Committee on Special Education. An increase of about 13 students with 504 plans, and an increase about 5 English language learner students. And this is all based on the trends, the past 5-year average. So that's an increase there. And as I mentioned earlier, we do offer a wide continuum of services within district. Currently, we offer integrated co-teaching services, which includes a general education teacher and a certified special education teacher collaborating to teach a class comprised of students with disabilities and general education students. Currently, we offer ICT at the high school level, and for the 24-25 school year, we are planning to introduce integrated co-teaching services as part of our continuum at BRS and the middle school. And we are currently working on finalizing our professional development plan for both buildings so that we can include conversations and consideration of ICT services at our annual reviews for next school year, starting in just a few months in January of 2024. That's pretty much it for my department. Dr. Thatcher.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Hello. So tonight I'll be presenting the technology budget and really highlighting how it aligns across multiple areas, certainly around our efforts to prepare our students to be future ready, so looking at some curricular aspects, talking about a little bit of our work in our efforts to automate different processes. In the fall, we had a presentation, the technology department, and we're able to share a wide range of different areas that we've been focusing on. So automation is something that we touched on then. We continue to make it a central part of our work going forward, as well as just sort of our efforts to create programs and provide services that are developmentally appropriate, you know, where tech integration is balanced and safe and secure. So with our budget, you will see that the largest increase is around contractual services. And I'll be, throughout this presentation, touching on where those increases are and what we're looking at. What's exciting about it is what this change reflects is the work that began last year when we were doing our budget preparatory work. Essentially, this change reflects the fact that we have increased our staffing, but it also has shifted around where we have individuals. So this increase reflects movement from the general fund for salaries there So from the general fund to the contractual services. And that number is largely reflective of the partnership that we have with Acture Solutions. So we have that change there. As well as the software budget line, there's an increase that is being proposed, and I'll talk specifically about those dollars and where we're seeing that increase, as well as our BOCES and Lyric line where we're, our annual increases that reflect there. In terms of our technology department, I wanted to sort of give a high-level overview, really give you a sense of what the department looks like now. I can easily say it's exciting. It's wonderful to be able to stand up here and say that we have a full team now. Staffing has been incredibly challenging across all of our buildings, just in general, and we're very, very pleased with where we've been able to come and what the department looks like. And so what we're seeing here with the department is, we have new administrative support, and that helps around data privacy and security, cybersecurity, procurement. We have new operational support, and that's around the implementation of projects. We also have new staffing roles at the building level, our educational technologists, and how they support our staff, as well as new database and rostering support, and that role and that work has helped around automating systems and rostering and integration of more technology solutions. And I'll be diving into each aspect of these roles, so we can kind of talk a little bit through that to really give a picture of what these new individuals and the roles are providing. So here at the building level, we have our educational technologists, and very pleased that our team was able to join tonight. So we have Nicole Madison, and we have Baber Marlik, and Baber's been with us for just a few weeks now. He's the most recent member of the technology department, and we also have Bernard Tetefio, and he's at the elementary school. So we have our 3 educational technologists, and what's really unique about this role and what is really very exciting, we're starting to see it come to fruition, is this role is a combination of tech support and instructional technology. And each person in this role has a classroom experience as a teacher of record or providing instructional support. So that we're starting to see really take shape. Our team is actually off to the Lower Hudson Regional Information Center tomorrow. They're doing a workshop on Schoology. Dr. Mara and Mr. Palumbo are also sending curriculum coordinators and teachers from their building. So we really are starting to see that close integration and that collaboration across buildings come together. So that's part of our collaborative work that you see there. Another big part of this is, as we grow, working smarter, not harder, making sure that we document all of our work and streamlining our processes. And so that has come together in the form of 60+ documents, and that covers a wide range. Anytime we engage in something around software or around different projects, around operations, so we see that come together in that space, as well as communication. So making sure as we bring individuals in, being able to communicate what's important and being able to share that with the teachers and the staff in our buildings. And Ms. Madison has been leading that work. For our level 2 staff, we have, and I'll introduce them, we've got Dylan Statt, who's our database specialist. We've got Michael Prendergast, who's our level 2 tech. And we have Joaquin Caballero, and he is our network specialist. And of course, we have Christy Nilsson. And Christy Nilsson and myself, we're the only ones that have been here since September. And everybody here is a new member of the team, and they bring tremendous skills. So we're very excited that they've joined us. As you can see here, this staff really works on processes. And in particular, we've been able to fold this into our tech goal for the year around automation. So this team has been working on building out workflows and developing processes so that we can automate that work around staff evaluations and We've been making strides, even greater strides in that, and we'll be sharing that at a future board meeting when we give our updates on our goals. But that work continues to grow with the support of this team, as well as the development of different solutions. We have a team in-house that can really customize solutions around inventory and insurance locally, which is a huge benefit. There's sort of that trade-off between going out and buying something or building something in-house. And for us, what we found is that we have a great cost savings by being able to build those solutions in-house, customize them and develop them. And just we're seeing that pay off in a number of different ways. So that's an exciting development there, as well as the supports around our systems administration. So there's big efforts there and making sure that we're supporting and maintaining multiple systems. And I'll be talking a little bit about that work because we are starting to think about automating across departments. And then the third part of this team is really around leadership and strategy. So I'll point to Richmond Fox here, who is our technology operations manager. He comes to us with a wealth of experience. He's a tremendous collaborator and leader, so we're very excited that he's a part of our team and helping Pleasantville really continue to expand and grow in very tremendous ways, and sort of not trying to get to a point of hyperbole. I mean, being genuine, the fact that we're doing so much tremendous work and really seeing this come together for us, for our staff, for our students, for our community. So that's really been exciting for me and for the team as well. And there are a whole host of different ways that we've been building out work. Things around data privacy, working on the NIST framework, and that's a national framework around cybersecurity. Doing work around our workflows and process management, coordinating purchasing and requests. So there are various points along this continuum where we're just thinking across all levels. And that really comes together in this work. And a big area that I'll touch on are our projects. Our project roster continues to grow every day. We just continue to bring on more technology. So that's a great area to have support and strategy. In terms of the software that we're looking to present for the coming school year, one of the big ones, and one I'm very excited to share, is No Red Ink. And where this came from is it came from the English department, our ELA teachers, and with support of our educational technologists. And the solution that they're looking at here is writing and grammar curriculum across all grades, grades 5 through 12. And this is a true cross-building collaboration with Mr. Palumbo's building, Dr. Mara's building. The curriculum coordinators worked together to evaluate different solutions and really arrived on this one. And it's really nice to highlight that they are looking at this truly to be something where it's utilized across all the grades. And I think that's really such a tremendous step in the direction of how do we bring this work from grade to grade. And what they really love about this is that it differentiates the grammar and writing instruction. It also creates opportunities for students to get immediate feedback. There are diagnostic solutions within this. It has grade level benchmarks. It actually has a bank of writing prompts that lead up to the AP level. So there is this continuum of curricular support that is embedded within this solution. And it's based on educational research. I believe it actually comes out of Stanford, this product, and it's been around for quite a while. So this is a nice, exciting development for our department and our buildings.
The BRS had so their wildly important goal was centered around ELA. Does this dovetail with the work that they're doing as a next step? Is it?
It does. So it really kind of leads into that work where they've been focusing on the writing, and that's been part of that conversation.
Okay.
To make sure that all the work that's going on there then finds that foundation. Yeah, the foundation's been built at BRS, and then that continues once they pick up this program in 5th grade.
Great, thanks.
Of course. And then the other software initiative that we have here is looking to adopt a unified onboarding and offboarding system. Dr. Desa, Mr. Chow, myself, Wendy D'Souza, we all got together, as well as Steve Chamberlain, and we're really looking at how do we start to bring different systems together in terms of that onboarding and offboarding process. We're looking at staff, we're also looking at students, and as we're evaluating this, we're realizing that there are multiple parts to this, right? There's the technology, you can buy the technology, implement that, but it really kind of comes down to how do we build out these processes, how do we support the staff, what does this look like from a systemic level? So there are multiple pieces that are going into this work, and what we're proposing here is to identify a solution that we would then adopt and then fully integrate, so as we continue to support that work. And looking at that around, because there have been interest and needs in certain departments to make sure that we continue to support that from a technology standpoint. Final piece that I'll touch on here is our BOCES and Lyric work. Every year we always like to highlight all the different areas in which we work with our partners at Southern Westchester BOCES and Lyric. Specifically, what we've been doing with the Lyric, and here it kind of covers all the different areas. They really are a critical partner. A major area, of course, is around data privacy and cybersecurity. So that's a major area of collaboration and support, as well as our infrastructure. We have some upcoming infrastructure projects. Actually, when Dr. Desa and I met to kind of talk about the budget, things happen on a daily basis. So, you know, we have more infrastructure things, projects that are in the pipeline that we're getting good news on. So I'm excited to be able to share more about that in coming board meetings when those pieces come. I think the supply chain's starting to pick up a little bit. So that's a very nice piece there. And with that, that takes care of us for the technology department. I believe handing it over to Dr. Desa.
Dr. Faggio, just
Please.
2 quick questions for
Of
you.
course.
The onboarding, offboarding, is that software that you're purchasing or stuff that you're developing in-house, or are you still in the process of figuring out which of the two it would be?
We would be purchasing something. So
Okay.
that's not, we wouldn't develop the software in-house. What may end up happening and what we've been looking at is, well, there'll probably be a software that we purchase. There might be different hooks that have to come into play, and we might have to customize some pieces. You might have a piece where you onboard to a certain point, and then the software, for security purposes, doesn't necessarily tie into another system. So we've been talking
You
to,
build the bridge between.
Exactly. So we might have to build those bridges, but what's proposed there is very much looking to purchase something to support that.
And I'll just add that, so what we've done so far in this area is we have built it out on paper. You don't have to leave yet.
No, that's okay.
We've built it out on paper, and we've worked together as an administrative team to look at our processes and our flows to make sure that our new employees are getting tech access, door control access, that they're getting what they need in order to be successful when they come into the district. In addition to that piece, it's when we have staff exit, we have to make sure, and right now we have a lot of different departments doing a lot of different pieces of that process. So so that happened, and then we started looking at, a sub-team started looking at what tools and resources might we have to better manage this process. So as Dr. Faggio said, so far we've looked at one product, and we will continue to look at products. The market is not saturated with options that are out there, but there are some that work better than others with our current systems that we use for our finance system, for our attendance system, et cetera. So right now, and I think the big piece that you started out with that's really important was that a lot of the work, and you know, we kind of joke about it because every time any one of them might come near my office, like there might be another idea for something else that we should automate. So this year's work and the goal was around the professional learning and the evaluation systems all coming into an online product. The next phase of this would be to look at how can we bring our human resources onto an online product. And a lot of these different products, they sell different modules. So with our product that we're using this year, we bought the professional growth model. We also bought the evaluation system models. We're also using it for other evaluation tools. So as we figure out more, you know, the movement from being a paper pencil district to being a district that has automated systems has been one of the many things that this expanded department in technology has been able to support the district with.
Thank you.
So you said you
Yeah,
wanted to-
I had two, but you answered the second one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, great. So, thank you. So as we continue onto the budget season, we have provided the preview, we've provided the proposed budget. Tonight we had the pleasure of hearing from the 5 instructional areas. I thank you all for your participation and for the tech team for coming out and supporting. Our next board meeting, which hopefully won't be rescheduled, we have athletics and O&M, our non-instructional revenue, tax cap, and contingency budget all on deck. And then as we move into April and May, we look at the budget adoption and then onto the public hearing and then finally the vote. So in addition to the presentations, we're working with our parent groups, and we scheduled a meeting with them on April 13th at 7:30 here in the library to go through a little bit about some of the big rocks in the jar, as we can call them, for our budget, and a little bit of their understanding with the budget presentation, with the budget timeline, I meant to say. You know, a lot of what we're investing in reflects, as I started this presentation, with our values and our priorities and where we might need to make some changes. So I think our administrators did a wonderful job tonight of highlighting some of the areas in the budget that we want to continue to invest in or make new investments in. So as always, we invite the community to provide comments to the board via the district clerk, Donna Vitucci, myself directly, and or our assistant superintendent for business, Mr. Chow. So again, thank you for presenting, and if the board has any questions, please feel free to ask.
One question I had was about the technology budget and discussion about moving some of the resources from the general fund for staff into the Acture contract.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about sort of why that decision was made and sort of the thinking behind it?
Sure. So this is the same organizational chart that the board saw last year, which was the first time that we brought Acture on board in the district. This is their first year. And I feel like this, when I was listening to everyone, one of my big takeaways was, and I talked about this when we had the village board meeting. I talked about this when we met with our different assembly people. I've talked about this when I've had SEPTA meetings. I feel like I've talked about this a lot, which is the current staffing challenges that we have. So this is the same org chart, but some of these positions were in the general, were in salary lines, and we have not been able to fill those salary lines. So we've been able to bring them into the contractual line, and through Acture, we've been able to, for the first time, actually fully employ this entire organizational chart, which has been wonderful, but that comes at a price. And my friend over here, Richmond, and I, perhaps I'm a little hard on him, but I feel like this slide is an important slide because these people, we have one person at each building. These are our educational technologists, one at the high school, one at the middle school, and one at the Bedford Road. And when you look at this title, it's about tech support, which we think about in terms of our wires and pliers, right? That they can fix things. When a child breaks, you know, that would never happen. When a child breaks their laptop and they bring it, they're the hands, they're making the fixes. but they also have this piece of being an instructional technology person. So it's the combo that is very difficult to find, that we've been very lucky to find, of the wires and pliers, and then what do you do with it instructionally? And that has been a huge piece, and it has been very hard to find people with this combination of skill and talent and being able to put it together. And that is part of the reason for some of these increase. It shifts, it increases, and it's based on all of this need. When we brought in all of this technology into the district, we were meeting the needs at the time. And this lag, I think, brings us up to speed with, well, what do you do with it when it breaks? Well, how do you inventory it? You know, we figured out how to buy it. We figured out how to put it in the hands of the students and the teachers. We figure out how to use it to a level. And now it's about maintaining, keeping everything updated, making sure teachers have professional learning, making sure that we have people in front of teachers with professional learning. I love reading this instructional tech newsletter because there's always a fun tidbit in there of what you can do with your technology. And like, these people are in it. The game has changed in teaching and the teaching and learning business. And they are a critical component to making sure that we are providing a future-ready education for our students.
So the newsletter, the intended audience is the teachers in their building.
Yes, it's like, when can you access them? Here's an idea to use. If you need help with it, find us. You know, any staffing changes, anything like that, they put in the newsletter. It looks similar to what you see at the building levels for the elementary and middle school.
May I add a couple?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to add a couple points to Aaron's questions. First of all, what we are talking here is all general fund. Okay, so that word should never have been introduced. It's all general fund. And so that's probably the first confusion. And what really this budget presented to us is that we're shifting funds from salary lines and benefits line to contractual lines.
So with that caveat, except for the positions that were funded by grant monies that expired. So that's the school, 0.5 school psychologist and the 1.0 SEL counselor.
Great. Super helpful. Thank you.
You had a question?
I didn't have a question. I just wanted to make an observation. When Dr. Faggio first became our Assistant Superintendent for Instructional Services, I think his whole department was him and like 2 other people from the RIC. So this is that org chart, if you go back one.
Yep.
This is such this represents a lot of work and a lot of thought and a lot of figuring out how to fund, and like, there's so much behind this org chart to really put us in a place where we can support not only the staff but the students with the technology that we're putting into their hands. And I mean, Dr. Faggio's done an amazing job of figuring out, you know, what we need, and then finding a way to work with the rest of the administration to fund it and, you know, put in place the right people. So this is, the fact that this is fully actualized now and we have people that can actually do the jobs in the jobs is, it's a huge, huge accomplishment. So thank you.
And keep them safe. There were several comments about cybersecurity, data protection. There's a lot of required components when you use software for teaching and learning. So there's definitely, it's very complicated, it's very necessary, and it is an exciting, so thank you for recognizing.
Well, I mean, moving to a device in every child's hand over the past few years, well, and COVID just accelerated that, but that was the plan all along. It just, the increased need for staffing in this area has been there for many years, and to see, you know, the processes being looked at and streamlining things and, you know, finding ways to make things more automated. I'm just really excited because we've been thinking about this and talking about this and hoping for this to be a reality. And now that it is, it's just going to make the district so much more efficient and better at helping the students and the teachers use the technology properly to really get the most out of it. So thank you to the entire team.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I had a quick question.
Sure.
About related to educational services. I really appreciate the investment in professional learning for the integrated co-taught classes, and I wondered if you could explain a little bit the thinking behind expanding
Sure.
ICT to BRS in the middle school.
This entire department is about us being student-centered. And what, we've worked I think what I want to say is that our students with special needs were probably one of the most impacted groups by COVID, remote learning, the back and forth. It's very difficult to manage transition. A lot of their work is very hands-on and experiential and physical. And on top of that, it is a department regulated by a lot of laws and a lot of legal requirements that were very difficult to meet during the pandemic. They are probably some of our hardest working, most caring, diligent staff members that we have. Some might say they do the hardest work in our district. And it has been a challenge for them to come back from COVID, try to make up for any lost services, try to make up for any delayed timelines, and come back and be on track and be able to really meet the changing needs of students. And so when we're looking at our continuum and what programs we're able to offer students, our programs are very much around either a resource room, modified, and then programs. And what we found was that there might be because we're offering a lot in those three areas, that there might be some students that would benefit. We're doing a lot of differentiating and a lot of modifications. I know that kind of sounds like we're modifying and modified, but we're being very creative in how we're meeting students' needs. And in looking at the continuum, thought about, can we find another way? Again, another department hugely impacted by staffing. We made adjustments, as you know, before the new year or by the new year or right around the new year with our contracts for our aides. We're asking for another program at BRS this year. We're asking to staff that new program and one of the existing programs with teaching assistants that become part of that collaboration with the teacher and delivering that program to students. And one of the things we wanted to be able to do, and to be able to do it well, this is a very highly skilled and trained staff, is to be able to deliver an ICT model when we have students that might benefit from it. It becomes a little tricky in a district our size, depending upon what those students look like in that grade and what you can offer and what would be best for students. So we want to look at ICT and make sure that we're properly trained for it and make sure that we understand where it sits in our continuum of services, so that if we have students whose profile might meet that need, again, for not next school year, but the school year thereafter, that we might be able to offer it for them. The way the annual review season works is that in the current season now, so basically January to June, you're writing your IEPs for the following year. So this time next year, we'll be writing IEPs for 24, 25, and we want to be able to look at having an expanded continuum of services for students by thinking about ICT at the elementary and at the middle school level.
Great, thank you so much.
Dr. Desai, I just wanted to also mention one other thing, which for people who are watching at home and saw, you know, obviously there's a decrease in revenue for educational services and an increase in cost, but one of the things that I think was really meaningful that Rook talked about was the increase in students that need services coming into this next year. And I think she said 20 students who are classified, 13 more students who have 504s, and I think 5 more that are English language learners. And I think when you look at these numbers, what you don't see is sort of, and one of the things I think you've helped us to all understand is how that compares to other districts, and the percentage of students that we have here in Pleasantville that have classifications is significantly higher than other places, and we're seeing, you know, a pretty substantial increase, it seems like, this year. So I just think that's important.
Absolutely. You know, one of the special education terms is least restrictive environment, and part of what you try to do in the least restrictive environment, which is give them the minimal amount for what they need to be able to access the general education curriculum. In that is also trying to educate students as much as possible in the home district. Because of our size of our district, we, in order to be able to run some of those programs, we take students in from other districts. And then the other districts' tuition, which is on this slide what you were looking at, I think, the tuition slide, and where we take students in. But the more resident students we have in those programs, the less room we would have for non-resident students to come in with tuition. And we do have a large number of students that transfer in over the course of the school year, well, over the summer as well as over the course of the school year into our district, because I use the term we're a destination district for special education services, and I think that goes back to what I was saying about the staff. Our staff is very skilled, very caring, very talented, and you know, it doesn't take a lot when you're sitting in front of someone and you can feel that and you can sense that, and that's the level of support and service that you want for your child. So again, a lot of, and it's kind of known out there, for our district. So sometimes instead of playing this, you know, tuition thing, our parents are moving here. And we heard that very loud and clear when we were at the SEPTA meeting, that parents move here because of our special education programs and services that we support.
But this is a unique department in that it generates revenue. Most of our other departments don't. So, you know, if you compare this 3.267 million to the previous slide, there is some offsetting of the cost of the expenses for educational services with this revenue line, which we don't really have for most of the, you know, any of the other departments we have.
Correct.
So while it's less, at least we do have some way to make up the, you know, add to our revenue line to offset the costs.
And again, I think the benefit of this is that we can have sustainable programs in our district that allows our resident students to not have to go elsewhere.
Right.
So it's a benefit in that regard also, that these students, again, are in, they're in public schools with their general education peers to the largest extent possible. And they have access to a range of classes, even when they're in some of these programs.
Any other questions?
They're also in our community, walking around, doing part of the life skills that they're being taught, are being taught in their own community, which is a huge benefit, which is why we created some of these programs in the first place.
Right, and it's nice to have the offset, but the school's not meant to be a revenue driver. It's meant to provide a service to our community members. So it's nice to have the offset, but it's important to keep our eye on what's what's the main goal?
Okay, so don't forget our parent groups. We're going to be seeing you on April 13th at 7:30. And if you need anything or have any comments, you can reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say a quick thank you to the entire administrative team. We know how much work and thought goes into these budgets, you know, with all the kids and meeting the needs of every child in mind. So I really can't thank you enough for creating this roadmap for us for the next year. So thank you.